If you had a microscope and could look at a piece of a leaf, you would see thousands of tiny openings which branch out until the leaf has all of the materials it needs. What happens now?
Welcome to class number 2. Today we're going to work on a lyric video, and it's going to be a ton of fun. Check this out.
Everybody ready?
Okay.
Here we go.
Alright.
You make a keyframe and you put it on a timeline. You change a property and animate it.
Just fine.
It's animation. It's animation. It's animation. Oatmeal.
Awesome track by MC Joey Kornman, huh? He actually provided 2 for us. One called Keyframe Killer that you're going to work on for your homework, and one called Animation Oatmeal, which you just heard, which is what I'm going to work on now, and you're going to watch me go. All right, so let's jump into After Effects, and the first thing that we need to do is import our song. I'm going to press Command-I to import, and here are my songs, and I'm just going to click on Animation Oatmeal, the one that I'm going to work on, and press Open. And that has now opened this in my project window here. And if you click on this, you can see the name of it, and then it's an MP3, and the length of it, or the duration, which is 14 seconds and 25 frames, almost 15 seconds, right? Cool. So now we need to basically make a new composition, and I'm going to do that by clicking on this button again. I know we went over this. And let's just go over these composition settings one more time, okay? Just make sure, because it's super important, that you're working HDTV 1080 29.97, okay? So make sure to do that, and the duration, you can go ahead to set to 15 seconds if you want, and hit OK. Awesome. So now to get this song into our composition, all we really need to do is grab it up here in the project window and just kind of drop it down onto the composition, right? Boop. And now, as you can see, it's down here in my timeline. So that's kind of awesome. We need to talk about previewing just for 1 sec, which I went over pretty quickly in the opening lecture, but I think it's a fairly important step that we need to just talk about a little bit more, okay? So here in After Effects, just for the heck of it, I'm going to take my rendered Animation Oatmeal video, and I'm going to drop that into a composition. And if we want to preview this, we have a few options, okay? Because I'm kind of old school and I learned After Effects in 1892 when it was first invented, I use the numeric keypad 0 when I preview. That used to be the only option that you had, okay? And that's kind of a pain in the butt for people because actually, if you're on a laptop, you don't have a numeric keypad or et cetera, et cetera. Most people prefer to use the space bar, which I think actually makes sense because it's sort of a big key. And it's what we're used to pressing to kind of play things, I think, at this point in time. So After Effects kind of responded to that and changed it so that you now have the option to use a bunch of different keys. So let's just walk through this so you can set this up for yourself. Okay, so if we go up here to Window and then go to Preview, right? And for me, that opens up over here, but if it doesn't open over there for you, it doesn't matter. It's all the same, okay? And up top here, you have these kind of familiar but very old school kind of like CD player functions, which I don't think anybody ever uses because everybody wants to use the keyboard shortcut for this because, you know, you're constantly playing down your project. And if you have to go up here and press this button every time, you're going to lose hours over the course of a week. So keyboard shortcut. Now you notice my preference, like I said, is to have the number pad 0 here. But for you, for the shortcut, I would recommend using the space bar, okay? So definitely go ahead and set that. Now, the range and the play from are kind of important to me. In my settings for the number pad 0, what I like and what I recommend that you do, but again, it's a personal preference, so this is totally up to you. I suggest that you keep the range at the work area and play from, I suggest that you change to be start of range. Okay, I'm going to show you what the difference is. So if I'm here in the middle of my comp and I'm working on something down here, right? And I want to just say I set my work area to end here, and I just want to play down like this area here from the beginning to 2.5 seconds or whatever it is. If this is set to play from the start of range, and I press my space bar, it plays that way, right?
Everybody ready?
Okay.
Here.
Audio cracks me up. So that's playing from the start of the work area. If you have this set, let me move this down somewhere like here. If you have this set to play from the current time and you press, space bar now, it will play it starting here.
You You change your property.
It takes a second for the audio to catch up, but you saw what happened. It starts playing it
You change
from
your property.
there. Whereas, again, start of range,
Keep your menu.
it starts there. All right, so it's a small distinction, but the way I'm going to work is always number pad 0 and play from start of range. I suggest you do spacebar and play from start of range, right? Before we begin, let's just talk about 3 useful tips for working with audio in After Effects. Tip number 1 is audio scrubbing. All right, so here with my video, if I move my CTI or current time indicator through this video, I am seeing the animation, but I am not hearing the audio track, right? How do you do that? Okay, the way you do that, and that's called audio scrubbing, is that you hold down on the command button. You press and hold down on command, and then you scrub through with the CTI just like before, and you should be able to hear the audio like this.
Everybody ready?
Oftentimes, you could do that to hilarious results like this. Okay, so you can have some fun with that and make Joey sound even crazier, or even slow it down like... Okay, so definitely have some fun with that. But the reason why that's really awesome is it allows us to use the audio to sort of focus in on like one particular frame of the audio, which otherwise would be very difficult to do just trying to play it down and like stopping it. So audio scrubbing is your new best friend, and especially combined with useful tip number 2, which is making markers on your layer. Okay, so if you select your layer and press Control and the number 8, you see I have now made a marker here on my layer on a specific frame. Okay, and what I could do is I can double click this and it opens this layer marker window, and now I can type like a word, like the word word, for example, and now that word is down here on my layer at an exact frame. And so I could go through and kind of like mark this up any way that I wanted. Okay, so that's really, really, really useful, especially combined with audio scrubbing. Okay, I'm going to actually, the way that you would delete a marker, by the way, is you'd command and kind of hover over it until you see the little scissor, which means cut, right? So I'm going to click that and cut that out now. Okay, now the third useful tip is also extremely useful, maybe not as useful as the other 2, but only because those other 2 are super, super useful. Okay, so this one is called the waveform. If I click down this little triangle to open this window here, and then click on this little triangle to open that window, and then click on this little window to open that little triangle to open this little tab. I said that wrong. In any case, you can see under audio you have audio levels, so you could actually like fade the audio out if you wanted to. We're not going to do anything like that in this class, but you can do it. But here you see you have this waveform, which is actually fairly useful when marking up audio. And that's what we're going to do. That's our next step, is we're going to go through, and it's going to take a little while, but we're going to do this. We're going to mark every word of when it comes on in the audio, okay? And that's going to allow us to, at a glance, see where all the actions happen that we want to attach graphics to. Because in this case, we want a new word to come in on screen each time a new word is said in the audio. So we really do need to come up with markers, and we don't need to, but it's a really good idea to place markers for every word so that when we actually do the animation, it's fairly easy to line everything up. So it's kind of a step that we're going to take up top that's going to save us time in the animation, okay? So those are my 3 useful tips. And I'm going to kind of continue this by showing you how I would like mark this up, okay? So first things first, I'm going to go to Comp 1, which is actually where I'm going to work. And I'm going to call that, I'm going to press return here and call this animation oatmeal, okay? Whoops, and I spelled it wrong. And that's sort of confusing because I have this other comp in here. So what I'm actually going to do is just delete the composition and the movie. I just brought this in to show you about previewing. Okay, so I'm going to delete these by pressing delete. And yes, I would like to do that. All right. So I'll double click my animation oatmeal. And here we go. I've got my track in here. And what I can do is, again, show the waveform monitor by twirling down on all these little triangles. Right. And now if I get in close, we can kind of see at a glance, because of the waveform, that looks like something's happening here, and then something changes right here. And you can kind of see that there's a big clump right there. Of course, what that is Joey's first line, right? And if I command and scrub through this,
Everybody ready? Everybody ready?
you can hear Joey saying that, right? So that right there is the first syllable of the E in the word everybody when he says that, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to select this. I'm going to press Control 8, right? Make a marker right there. And now I'm going to double click this and type everybody. And I'm going to press OK. Okay, so now I've got a mark here that says everybody. And now, right there is the first part of the first syllable of R. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control 8 and make a marker there. And I think you're going to see that I'm going to open this up and I'm going to type ready, question mark, press enter. And now you can see I'm basically going through this and I'm just going to mark up every word, like I said. These markers are incredibly useful. When you zoom back, like if I zoom back here, they sort of run together, and we'll see this even more in this section where there's like a lot of words very quickly. But you can always just zoom in and tell what they are, right? And you could also always move these, which is fairly easy to do. So if you're really trying to be careful to mark everything up, make sure not to move those, okay? So I'm going to sit here and do this now for the rest of this song. And I'm going to make you watch me for a little while, and then I'm going to jump into fast forward so that I do not bore you to tears, okay? I want to just make you watch me enough so that you can see the process, and then you know how to do this for yourself, because I definitely think you should do this for Keyframe Killa, even though it's going to take you a hot second because there's a lot of words in there. As you see when we get into animation, this is going to make things so much faster. So, okay, find the first syllable of OK, and press Control 8, which I actually pressed asterisk on my numeric keypad. Again, 1892 is when I learned After Effects. That's an old hidden keyframe. If you have a numeric keypad and you like asterisk better, that's easier for me than pressing Control 8, but I don't know if you have that option. Anyway, so I'm going to double click this and type OK, press return. Such a pleasure to be able to hear Joey's voice in slow motion. Okay, and here's here. And there's the W and we. Double click that. We. The G and go. Go. Now, you see, I'm only also marking the very first syllable of the words. That's not necessarily when you want the word to come on screen, though I think it might be, but I'm just doing that because I want to find a system and keep it consistent for the whole comp. You might have a different system here, but this is what I recommend, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do this now, and I guess I'll do this in fast forward to spare you the boredom, but I'm going to go through and do this for the entire song. One note is that for certain keywords like property that are kind of extended and have a little bit more time to play with in this song, I'm actually breaking those down into syllables as well. Yeah, so I think that'll make a more fun animation, although obviously it's taking a little bit more time here to mark this up, but still I think it's worth it. Jumping back into fast forward. Okay, awesome. I marked the whole thing up, so I hope that wasn't too boring. Let's check out some of these fast parts, and you'll be able to see this a little bit better if I zoom in. So I just set my work area around this part, just so you can watch as I play this down, and you can see the accuracy of the markers.
You make a keyframe and you put it on that table. You make a keyframe and you put it on that table.
All right, so once this step is done, it's super useful for going forward, okay? I definitely recommend you do this. Okay, I know you're dying to start animating, but we need to talk about a couple of things first, so I gotta slow it down here. First, you definitely need to save your project, okay? The autosave, which I told you about, only kicks in and starts working once you name your project and give it a folder and save it, okay? So definitely do that. Go up to File and Save, or Command S, and then go ahead and save your project and pick a place for it and start saving it, okay? That's one thing. Second, we're going to need to work with type here in After Effects. And so I did want to show you that there's a couple windows that you need to kind of open. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this preview window, which I only opened just for the purpose of talking about it. So I'm going to go up here to this little 3 lines and go to Close Panel. Okay. Now I still have my effect control up here. So if we want to work with type, I can go up to Window, and there are the familiar character and paragraph windows that you need to open. Okay, I say familiar because those are also in Photoshop and Illustrator. So if you know Adobe products, you've kind of seen these before. So let me open character. Okay, and I have that open up over here, kind of underneath my effects panel. So it's kind of neatly stacked. And then, you know, I think hopefully this looks familiar to you from other Adobe products. You can choose your font, you can choose the sort of weight of it and the size and the spacing and the, you know, the kerning and everything like that. So that's really useful. Awesome type engine. Additionally, you have under Window, you have this sort of paragraph as well, which hopefully is familiar. Mine also opens up over here, so I kind of have these two things in tabs right here, right? And paragraph allows you to kind of choose the layout of the type, etc., etc. Hopefully you're familiar with this again, all right? So I just wanted to say that those are there. If you do not have these open, if I close both of these, I believe the way that After Effects works is that actually if I go ahead and click on my type tool, which is this T up here, it should auto open those panels, right? So it should auto open them right there for you, or wherever you want to put them, okay? So that's 2 things I needed to mention. And then the third thing is a little bit longer of a topic, all right? In the first lesson, and in almost every lesson for this class, I'm giving you the artwork so that you can really focus on the animation. This is, after all, an animation class. However, in this project, you're also going to be doing some design. Okay, even though that's not necessarily the focus of this class, animation and design go together like peanut butter and chocolate, okay? They just work together. And it's just one of those things that if you're going to work in motion graphics, which I undoubtedly assume you're going to directly after taking this class, or possibly even just after the first lecture, if you're going to work in motion graphics, even if you don't consider yourself a designer and you think of yourself as the master animator of the world, you still need to know a couple things about design because it's part of your job description, all right? Things like placement of type, things like choosing a good typeface to work with, colors, general layout skills. If you don't have any of those, it's going to be a little bit hard for you to get any work, I think. Not to say you need to be Ash Thorpe or some genius designer, but just some basic skills, okay? So let's back it up here and talk about design for a sec. Again, this is not the focus, but let's just talk about this for a sec, okay? What do we need to do here? For this lyric video, we need some typefaces, okay, which is what designers call fonts, by the way. If you want to sound fancy and like a designer, you call it a typeface in a meeting, and you'll sound immediately like way more pro, okay? And then the other thing that we need to work with here is color, okay? Now, the good news is there are some awesome websites that are going to help you choose colors and typefaces, okay? And we need to go over those now, or I'd like to go over those now. I find these things really, really helpful. The first thing that I want to talk about is Coolors.co, by the way. Not .com, but .co. Coolors, like Coolors. Okay, so Coolors. I don't know who came up with that name. But anyway, this is a great website for generating color palettes. Okay, that's all it does. And what I would do is go here to Explore, right? And if you click there, you'll see a bunch of pre-made palettes that people have come up with, some of which are awesome. And you can kind of use this button here to click through different sets of palettes, right? And what I want you to do is just kind of look through here and pick out something that you think is awesome, and also that you think matches the tone of the song that we're working with, all right? Because you're not just pulling colors because you like them. Theoretically, you're pulling them to match the project you're working on, okay? Now, a tip about working with these color sets. Sometimes I'm really drawn to like this one here, for example. And you see it's got like tons of bright colors, and it's just like really fun colors, right? Bright red, bright orange, bright yellow. But what you really want to look for in these color palettes is good contrast. Another thing that I like to look for here, and this is kind of personal, but you see up here, like, I'm not in love with this palette, but what it has is it has a light color that's very much like white, and it also has a dark color, which is kind of a black. And sometimes that's really useful, because if you choose something like this that's like green and blue and purple, and there's no like black or white value, or near black or near white, you kind of lose a lot of contrast, and oftentimes, in order just to be able to see things on screen, you need to have some good contrast, okay? So choose these carefully. Like, I think this would be a good one here. It's got a dark and a light, and then it's got some fun punch colors that have contrast, okay? In the end, I wound up choosing this one for myself. Like I said, it has a near white and a near black, which are actually, this is like a kind of gray when you look at it up close, and this is not white. But it's got this really fun, strong red, and then it's got two shades of blue that I thought have a lot of contrast between them already. So you could put this color on top of this, you could put this color on top of this, and then you could put this, this, and this probably on top of this. And you could also put these two colors on top of the red, I think. So it gives you a lot of opportunities, which is something to look for, okay? The other thing that we should talk about is typefaces, okay? Now, typefaces are really awesome, and I love them, and I like to collect them. Most times you have to pay for them because designers legitimately spend a ton of time working on them, and they need to be reimbursed for their work. Okay, however, for this class, because you're students, I do not want to tell you to just run out and buy a ton of different typefaces, which can get expensive, actually. So while this is a school project, okay, what I recommend is going to the Lost Type Co-op, which is losttype.com, losttype.com, okay? And Lost Type Co-op is a collaborative digital type foundry, and they have awesome people that design typefaces for them. For example, this one is designed by Aaron Draplin, who's the Draplin Design Company. He's a famous designer, and he's awesome. If you don't know him, you should definitely check him out. But so like these typefaces are all pay what you want. Okay, so theoretically, and I'm not telling you that you should do this, but theoretically, you can click here and find a typeface that you like. Okay, this opened a different window here. I'm going to go back. I'm not sure why that opened that. But like if I go to Regina Black, I should be able to click on Purchase Regina Black, okay? And now here, it suggests these amounts, but it is pay what you want for personal use. Again, this is just for personal use and just for students, I think. You can type in 0 in here and then download any font that you want from this website, okay? So they have a lot of fonts here, and they're all pretty high quality. And you know, you could browse through a very, very, very long list of them to come up with one that you think really suits what you're working on, all right? So this is an awesome resource, and we should all be really thankful that awesome designers like this are offering great fonts for essentially no money if that's how you choose, if that's what you choose to do, all right? In the real world, if you're working on a job and you want one of these fonts, you should pay for it. Okay, just want to throw that out there. So I chose a couple of fonts from here that I thought worked really well with this song. And I'll show you. One of them I chose was Regina Black, which we kind of looked at. And the other one was this Buffon. I chose both of those because I think they're really fun. And they look like they would work together to me. They both have kind of serifs, but they're very different. This one's kind of squared serifs, and these are kind of pointy serifs. And I thought they just had like both the right qualities, and I thought they would work together well. Okay, so I downloaded those and I opened those up so that I could work with them in After Effects. All right. Okay, we're very close to start animating this project. I just want to explain two more things that I think might make your life a lot easier real quick to start. Okay. For one, we've provided you with a lyric sheet of the lyrics of Keyframe Killa and of Animation Oatmeal, but in this case, I'm going to work with Animation Oatmeal. So if you find those lyrics, okay, here they are. What I'm going to do is take this and I'm going to copy the song, the lyrics of the song, okay? Copy. And then I'm going to go back into After Effects. And with my type tool selected, I'm going to click on screen here, and I'm just going to paste all those lyrics right here. And I'm just going to kind of keep them in here. So now I just need to like copy and paste parts of this when I'm doing the animation, okay? This is just so I make sure I don't have any spelling mistakes, and just so I'm not responsible for typing the actual words in, which can sometimes you can mess up, all right? So I like to kind of copy and paste things, right? And you can always just turn that layer off whenever you want, okay? Additionally, we're gonna need to import the color palette that you selected. So go ahead and hit Command-I to import it, okay? And find your palette wherever you put it and hit Open to open it in After Effects, all right? So what I could do is I could take this and sort of drag this in here, and now I can see all of my colors, which is really useful because if we want to make a new solid or something, Command-Y, that opens the solid settings, and then I can use my eyedropper to just say pick one of these colors precisely and then make a new solid out of it, okay? Or I can make new type and then color it by using this eyedropper to pick to one of the things on the palette here, right? I just deleted my solid, right? So we can use eyedroppers now that we have these color values in here, okay? But let's look at this for a sec, because right now the palette, which is incredibly useful, is unfortunately in our composition where we're trying to lay things out and do design, and it's kind of right in the way. And if I take this and I move this over here, I can no longer see those colors, so it kind of has to be like on screen here. So you could take this and try to like minimize this and stick it down here in the corner and make it less distracting, which is something that certainly I've done in the past. But I think an easier way to do this is to actually take advantage of one of those dumb things that we said might mess you up in After Effects, right? So remember, if I double click this layer, it opens a layer window here in the center of, where my composition is, and it could mess you up if you don't remember that, right? But what we can do is we can actually move this, okay? So I'm gonna grab this kind of by its own handle here. These are like tabs, and they have kind of like implied handles here. And if I take my layer palette window and I drag this, I can move this around in my After Effects interface, right? So I could take this and put this, for example, here, okay? Not here in the center of the effects control or in the center of this, but sort of here, which means it's going to put it right between these two windows. So if I let go, it puts it there, right? And I can kind of like minimize this now and just have that open, and I can even like lock this, right? Now I can't delete this out of here because I still need this layer here, but now I can just turn that off. I can put that at the bottom or whatever, and now I don't need to deal with it on screen. Anytime I need to like make a new solid, for example, I can hit Command-Y, and now in my solid settings, I can choose my pick whip and go over here and choose, like, for example, this color, and see that now, put that there, and I can hit OK, and now I have a full screen of color, or type, or whatever, okay? So leave this over here, and it's just like a little window for your reference up there, okay? I find that's really useful. Okay, we're finally ready to start the animation process. So back here in After Effects, I'm going to press Home to go back to the beginning of my composition, okay? And the first sentence that we have here is, everybody ready? The question, right? In general, we're going to kind of clump these according to sentences because obviously when you're speaking or writing, a sentence is kind of one thought, generally speaking. So in this case, we're going to have like one thought and then move on to the next thought and the next thought. So everybody ready? That's kind of one thought. And then, okay, that's another thought. And then here we go, etc. So I'm going to break those down into sentences, kind of. But we'll start out with this first one and we'll design this, okay? So remembering what typeface we wanted to use, I chose Buffon and Regina, so you kind of have to keep that in your mind. And for example, in this little box here, if I want Regina, I could just sort of like type the first few letters of that and it'll kind of fill in with an auto-correct kind of a thing, or auto-fill thing. In this case, I actually want Buffon, but that's how that works, right? And I'm going to pick like a nice big size for this. And, I've selected my type tool, obviously. And if with all that ready to go, I'm just going to click here. And I'm going to type everybody. And actually, I'm going to undo that for 1 second. I'm going to type everybody in lowercase. And I want to show you how this works. I typed it in lowercase. And if I double click on this, by the way, I will select all of my letters here. And then this button makes it all caps. So that's kind of a useful thing. So you can always like toggle back and forth between caps and non-caps. In this case, I want caps, but I also want it to be bold. So I'm going to have to kind of find that there and put that there. Okay. So that's awesome. I've got everybody, and I can always double click on this, remember, and change the color by going up in here in my palette window and just sort of eyedropping a color, right? In this case, I think that light blue is fine. Like I said before when we were in the coolers window, this has got great contrast on this dark blue, right? So I'm going to take this, and here's a good shortcut. I'm going to choose V for my arrow, and I'm going to press Option Command and then Home, and then that centers the anchor point in the center of this layer. And then I'm going to hit Command Home, and that kind of moves it into the center of the layer. So that's really useful. That works for most layers in After Effects. Option Command Home and then Command Home. Okay, so now I have to also have the word ready on screen. So I'm going to take everybody down here and I'm going to duplicate it. And this one says everybody too. I'm going to move that down below. And I'm going to take everybody and click on that. And I'm just going to move this up now for a sec. And now another way to select the type for editing is to just double click on the layer. So now I can, that's all selected. And now I can type ready. Oops, spell it right, ready. Question mark, right? I could have also, by the way, copied and pasted this from that lyrics that I made earlier. The sentence is fairly short, so I don't think I need to do that, but we do have that set up just in case, okay? So now I've got everybody and ready. And let me double click on ready and go up here to my character window and select the eyedropper and choose the white color for this, okay? So that looks really nice, except for that it's kind of awkwardly high up in the frame. So what I'm gonna do is, let me go down here to this button and press this here to see the title action safe. And I don't really need to explain what that is, except for to say that this gives me a center point. Oh, those sirens are really loud. This gives me a center point for my entire comp. Okay, so I kind of see where that is. So now, if I select everybody and ready, I can take both of those. I'm going to select my arrow tool, or V. I'm going to move these down, because they were centered right to left, as you recall, because of my Option Command Home trick. And now I just need to kind of put the center of the comp sort of right between these two. And I held down on Shift, so I was moving them up and down. So now I can tell that they're kind of like really centered in here. And I could turn this off now if I want, if I find that distracting, right? So now I have the words everybody ready on screen. And they're in separate layers, and so they're definitely ready to animate now. Now, we need to talk a little bit about layer organization, about how to move, trim, and move up and down in the layer stack, your orders, your layers here, right? So let's talk about that for one sec. If I want now my word everybody, this layer, to start on this guide mark, which I set right here, right? I can go back to that and kind of like click into that guide with my current time indicator, right? And now I could just hover over the edge of this layer and drag this back, okay? And that's different. That's trimming the layer. That's different from moving the layer, okay? So you can tell, because it gives me a different little icon here when I hover over the end, that this means now that I'm trimming. And if I just see the regular arrow, that means I'm moving that, okay? But the shortcuts for this, which I suggest that you use from now on, involve the bracket keys, okay? The brackets that look like squared off little edges. And those brackets represent the start and end of our layers, because our layers literally have those same kind of like squared off ends on them, right? So if I want to trim this, I need to hit Option and left bracket, okay? Because left bracket controls the beginning of our layer and right bracket kind of controls the end of our layer. Okay, I think I'm probably flopped for you, but in any case, I need to select this and hit Option and left bracket, and that will trim that layer right there, okay? If I didn't hit Option and I just hit left bracket, that would move that layer to start there, which in this case doesn't matter because there's no animation on it, but if there was animation and there were keyframes in there, trimming and moving are very different, because when you move all the keyframes with the layer, and when you trim, just say, for example, up to when a keyframe might start, okay? So I know that this word needs to start here, and similarly, I know that the word ready needs to start right here because of my guide. So I can also Option and left bracket and start that right there, okay? Now, additionally, I know that the word OK comes on right here. So what I'm going to do is move back one frame by pressing page up, or I could just move my CTI. And now I'm going to select both these layers, and I'm going to right option and right bracket on this to trim the end of those right there so that the next frame is when OK starts, all right? So I've got my timings on this already. And if I press N just to set the end of my work area here and move this up to the beginning, we can kind of preview this without any animation at all. And let's check this out.
Everybody ready? Okay. Everybody ready? Okay.
I love that. So now you can see that even without any animation, just having the layers start and end at the proper frame actually creates a kind of rudimentary animation for us. So that's kind of cool, right? Of course, we are going to animate these. And now, I again still want to talk about one other thing that's going to make this slightly more complicated, all right? Which is the word everybody. It's one word, actually. It's spelled this way. I had to look it up and check. But we all know that what this really means is like everybody. It's sort of broken up into two. So to make this very, very clear, for example, we could animate this, and it might add a little bit more fun into this as well. If it's like everybody. The way that I want to animate these, by the way, is to have these just kind of pop up from the bottom of the screen and land here. All right. So what I was thinking could be really fun is if we divide the word everybody up into two different words and make them look like they're one word, which they are, but animate them slightly separately. Okay. So the way that I would do this is slightly tricky. Okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the word everybody and I'm going to duplicate it. All right. And I'm going to move everybody 2 down to the bottom. And everybody 1, I'm going to double click on this to open this up. And I'm going to, actually before I do that, I lied. I'm going to double click on everybody 2 first, okay? And I'm going to, by double clicking it, I make this editable. And what I'm going to do now is click here, and I'm going to just select the words every, and I'm going to hit delete and delete those, okay? And now what you see is it moved the word body over this way. So I need to kind of take this and move it back so that it lines up again with itself. So I'm holding down shift because I'm moving this only horizontally, and now I'm going to use my arrow keys to just kind of like nudge this into place. And you can see there's a one spot where it just clicks right in. If I move 1 to the right now, I see that I'm adding it more on this side, which is not good. And if I move 1 to the left here, I see I'm moving it that way past it. So this is the exact spot that I want body at, okay? So now I can click on the word everybody and double click on that, go back to the middle here, and now I'm gonna just delete the word buddy. And now I'm gonna take the word every, and I'm going to slide it back over so it lands just right back there. And what you could do is you can click on both of these and just make sure that it's still lined up in the center, okay? And the shortcut, by the way, for this title safety thing is the quote button. So you can kind of just roughly see if that's in the center there by pressing quote, okay? And now ready should be still right underneath it. Okay, so now I've prepared this so that I can animate every and buddy separately, right? And that little dividing up trick, we're going to do a bunch here. That's just kind of something you're going to have to do in this case, right? So finally, animation, right? What we want to do is I'm going to think we're going to go about 10 frames into the beginning of this. I hit shift and page down to move 10 frames. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select every and buddy, and I'm going to press P to show my position property, right? And press the stopwatch. Now, the reason I'm doing this here is even though I want to animate this to start at the bottom of the screen and come up, is I've already spent a lot of time figuring out exactly where this spot is that it should land. So I'm going to kind of animate this backwards now from this point, because if I just moved it off screen and then tried to animate it and had to find this exact spot again, I'd have to like kind of start over on the placement. So I'm going to make position keyframes here, and I'm going to move back now 10 frames. With both of these selected, I'm just going to drag this down off screen until it gets to the bottom, right? Cool. So that moves up. And additionally, I'm going to put that little bouncy overshoot in this because this song is really fun and animated and hilarious, and I think this should be cartoony in the way that it animates, okay? Obviously, if this was a commercial for health insurance or for like a mortgage or something, you know, it wouldn't have that kind of bounciness probably, you know, but in this case, it's a silly, goofy animation oatmeal song, so we can make this really fun. Right, so I'm going to jump back 2 frames, okay, and I'm going to copy and paste these final resting frames up here. So now I could take both of these layers, right? And on this frame that I just pasted these into, I can kind of like move these up a little. I'm just holding down Shift and I moved it up a little, right? So now we get this animation where it comes in and it bounces up and then settles, right? So a little overshoot, or a little bit of a three-part action, anticipation, which is happening off screen. We're not seeing it. So this is more of a two-part action, but it's sort of like action and then reaction, right? Okay, great. And additionally, what we can do is now find the exact syllable where buddy starts. And I'm going to do this. I haven't marked this, right? But I'm going to command and scrub through this. It starts around here. There's the B sound, right? So what I'm going to actually do is possibly move everybody up a little bit, right? So that I know that buddy is hitting about here. And now let's check that out, now that I've offset the timings of those two layers.
Everybody ready? Okay. Everybody ready?
Okay, so that's really fun. The only problem is that I need to extend this back here so that ends at the same point, right? But I think that's really fun. I even think that the animation could be a little bit faster, so I'm going to just take these keyframes here and just move these up a couple, and we can check that out.
Everybody ready? Okay.
Right, so that's a little bit more fun. So how many frames is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frames here, and then a 2-frame overshoot bounce back, right? So I'm going to go ahead and create like a really similar animation for the word ready now. Okay, I'm going to jump forward 6 frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or I could hit page down, right? And now I'm going to press P to show my position property, press the stopwatch to make the keyframe, go back to the beginning, drag this down, holding down Shift, so this is straight, and you can see the position path here, right? And now I'm going to go 2 more frames, page down, and I'm going to copy and paste that frame there, and now I'm going to do the same thing where I move to my overshoot frame, select it, and I'm just going to click this up so that I'm holding down Shift, and it's just going to kind of go right up to where that is, okay? So now they both kind of come in, or all 3 of them, all 3 layers come in and overshoot and land, and then are out, all right? So let's check that out.
Everybody ready? Okay. Everybody ready?
Now it looks like, because here's the first syllable of the word ready, I don't have it hit until later, right? So I'm going to actually move this up so that the bounce overshoot kind of is happening on that frame. And now I'm going to pull back the end of this. Or if I undo that, I can go to the end here and hit, I think I need to go back 1 frame and hit Option and right bracket to trim that there. Remember that this frame is the last frame of these layers. So if I went here and trimmed this, this one would stick off 1 extra frame. So remember, you have to go back here because of that 1 frame overlap issue. Okay, cool. So this is now, basically set up, right? Everybody ready? And I like the timings. We adjusted the ready, so let's check that out.
Everybody ready? Okay. Everybody ready? Okay.
Awesome. I think that's really fun. So now we're ready to move on to our first transition. Okay? And the first transition needs to get these words off the screen, and also I want to switch to a new background color here. I'd like to pull in a red color, and I'd also like to have, obviously, the word OK on screen. So what I'm going to do first is just set that all up and lay that all out, and then we'll figure out the animation on that, right? So I'm going to press Command Y to make a new solid, and I'm going to actually move this over here so it's a little bit easier, and I'm actually going to move this over here so it's even easier, and I'm just going to click on the eyedropper and get a nice color for my red and hit OK. All right, so now I have a red solid, and I'm going to Option and left bracket trim that so that it starts right at this frame, which is right after this ends, okay? And I might have to adjust this in a sec, but this is at least, I can look at the 2 frames by going back and forth. Additionally, I'm going to select all by Command A, and I'm going to twirl this down, and I think what I need to do is just do a little bit of organization of these layers right away. As I said many times, this can become total mess in here if you don't watch out. So it's good, for example, for me to so here I have a blue background. So let me do some color coding on this. Here's my deep royal blue solid. I'm actually going to move this up so it's kind of underneath here, and I'm going to go to the end of this by pressing O. Remember, I and O, I think I mentioned this, take you to the in and out of the layer. So I'm going to hit with this selected O, so I know I'm at the last frame. And I'm going to click on my royal blue solid, and I'm going to Option and right bracket to trim it right there. And I'm going to make this blue 2, which is one of my settings, okay, and to make it a nice dark blue. And now I'm going to just make these like yellow or something, just so I know that my type is these yellow layers and my solid is this blue color, right? So now this is already red, so that's good for my red solid, right? And now I need to type the word OK on screen. So I'm going to deselect everything, and I'm going to press my type tool and click in here somewhere, it doesn't really matter, and I'm going to type OK. And I'm going to put an exclamation point because it sounds like it's got an exclamation point on it. And I'm going to double click these, go back over here to my character window, and I'm going to type Regina Black and start typing that, and it'll fill that in for me. In this case, I want the solid. All right, and I think I don't want this to be all caps, so I'm going to un-all caps that. Oops, and it looks like I typed it in all caps, so let me go back in here and retype this. Okay, like that. I like these uppers and lowers of this font a lot. So great, so I've got OK, and I'm going to take that layer and go back to the start of my red layer, hit I, and move this. Now I want to move this down, and this is not something that I taught you how to do, but the brackets also work for moving layers up and down, not just for trimming and moving. Okay, so if I want to move this down in the layer order, I can hit Command and left bracket, and now you see that'll walk me down, right? If I want to move all the way, oh, and up, by the way, is the right bracket, Command and the right bracket, that moves me up. If I want to move all the way to the top or all the way to the bottom, for example, the top, I can hit Shift Command and right bracket, and that moves this layer all the way up to the top, or Shift Command and left bracket would move it all the way down to the bottom, okay? So I'm just going to hit Command, right bracket, right bracket, right bracket to move this up top, and now I'm going to hit Option, left bracket to trim that right there, okay? These brackets are really important, and they're definitely good to know, really good shortcuts to save you a lot of time, okay? So now let's take the word OK and Option, Command, and Home and move the anchor point to the center, and Command Home and move the whole layer to the center of the composition. We now need to make our first transition, okay? So we need to kind of get this stuff off screen in a cool way and get this stuff on screen, all right? So I'm going to jump back in here, and I kind of have this idea of kind of following through. We brought these on sort of, they came on from the bottom and went up. So let's have these move up off the top of the screen, okay? And the blue background is going to follow them up. And what that's going to do is it's going to kind of pull on the word OK from the bottom. And it's going to look like it's moving the red up as well, though that's not going to animate, all right? So let's check that out. How do we do that? I'm going to go back using page down to here, to my last frame of everybody and ready. And I'm going to then jump back 10 frames by hitting Shift and page up, okay? So let's just say this is about where this transition is going to start, though we're going to have to change these timings anyway. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select my everybody and ready, and press U, the letter U, to show all the animation, all the animated properties. In this case, it's just the position. And I'm going to go ahead and click these 3 buttons here to put new position keyframes on for these in this position, okay? Now, we talked a little bit about 3-part action, but here we go. This is going to be a classic 3-part action spread out over this transition. The anticipation, the sort of getting ready part, is going to happen here, and then the action is going to be these moving off screen, and then the reaction is going to kind of happen over here, right? So first we need to build this little anticipation in, okay? So I'm going to move like 3 frames down, 3 or 4 frames, okay? And I'm going to take all these, which are selected, and I'm just going to kind of drag these down a little bit here, and I'm holding down Shift, right? And then I'm going to move to the ends of these layers here, and I'm going to take all these and I'm going to move these up and off screen like that, okay? So now it's this sort of bounces down and moves up, right? Additionally, these are all need to be offset, and I think probably we do need to adjust the timings on this. It's probably a little bit slow. So I'm going to kind of like adjust these a little bit by eye, and we'll do this. We'll get this perfect in a second, but what I need to do is now start offsetting these. So first and then I'm going to move buddy back 1, and I'm going to take the keyframes for ready and move those back 1 as well. All right, so now it's sort of staggered like that, right? And additionally, we need to get this blue solid to move off screen as well. So what I need to do is I'm going to Well, here you go. Here are my transform positions, which are still open. I'm going to, or if those aren't open, I'm just going to press P and make a position keyframe here, right? And I'm going to go to the end, and this is just a few frames here, so just making sure I'm doing this right. I'm going to go to the end and take my blue solid, and I could move this up by dragging it, or here I could adjust the value, and I'm going to, oops, that's the X, sorry. So I'm going to move this up. I'm holding down on Shift to kind of multiply the value, and I'm going to move this up and off screen as well, right? So now we have this animation like this, where the letters start bouncing up, and then it sort of pulls the blue background up with it, all right? So far, so good. What you will see now is that when the blue moves up, it's revealing actually a black background, which in fact is actually clear because there's nothing back there. So what we need to do is find our red solid and pull this back, okay? We can option and bracket or just, hover and pull this back to the frame where this starts animating so that when this moves up right away in the next frame, we can see that the red is already there, right? So this is happening. And the final step of this is we need to get back in here. And what would make this look really nice and complete the transition and be the sort of third part of the three-part action is if we animate the word OK so that that's kind of following everything else up, right? So I'm going to select my word OK, and I'm going to press P to show the position and make a stopwatch. Make a keyframe by pressing the stopwatch. And now let me jump back. I just kind of made this point arbitrarily. Let's see where I am. So here's 10 frames. I like that. So I'm going to option and left bracket and extend my OK layer to there. And now I'm going to move this down. This probably does not need to move all the way to the bottom because when I'm done positioning this, it's going to kind of, when I'm positioning it in time, remember the word OK actually starts being said right here because of my marker. See how useful those are already? So I kind of want this to be like pulling up and hitting probably actually a little bit quicker, probably more like here, right? So you kind of see the way this is. It doesn't really need to be starting at the bottom because by the time we actually see it, it's around here and it's already moving up. And we could even make this faster, I think. This might need to be faster, but we can then trim the layer right there. Actually, you know what? I can't do that. I'm going to hit undo because we're actually starting to see this already right there. So it needs to kind of be there. So if we want this faster, I need to move this up. But what I'm going to do is I'm also going to build a little bit of an overshoot into this. The way that I would do that is I'm going to just basically take this keyframe, which is it landing in its final position. I'm going to copy and paste that here. Maybe even take this and move this back one, okay? Because 2 frames is better rather than 1. And now I'm just going to do that thing where I kind of pull this up a little bit, right? And then it lands back in the center, right? So here is the transition. And let's play this down. Let's see what it looks like in motion.
Everybody ready? Okay. Everybody ready? Okay. Everybody ready? Okay.
Okay, so that looks really fun. The only thing I think is that this blue background is moving too fast. So let me take this keyframe and kind of extend this back a little bit and this way too. And just add, no, that was my last frame there, so I can't do that. So what I would need to do now, first I'm just going to check that.
Everybody ready? Okay.
I still don't think it's great. And actually, I think I need to make it happen a little bit later and have it be a little bit slower. So I'm going to extend the end of this and drag this back this way. Right? And now I could probably move my word OK back a frame. Let's see what that looks like.
Everybody ready? Okay. Everybody ready? Okay.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's looking really good. I think the blue moves up much better now. It's better timing. And now I just think that maybe the word OK, first of all, it might need to start later. Let me try it a frame later. But now it looks like it just kind of pops on. Let's see.
Everybody ready? Okay.
That's better.
Everybody ready? Okay.
That one frame really helped a lot here. So I think that's much better. I think we're ready to move on. So what I would do probably is go to the next sentence, which is here we go. Again, probably not something we need to copy and paste the lyrics from, but I would probably figure out a background and then lay this out first, and then we'll figure out a way to transition from the OK into this. I know. It's a bit backwards, but let's go ahead and try that. So what I'm going to do is, at least for now, I'm going to option and bracket, right bracket, and trim my layers, the OK and the red solid right here, okay? And I'm going to choose a new solid by Command Y and click here, and I'm going to make this white in the background, or this off-white color, right? And I will now hit my left bracket to move that solid to start here. Additionally, I can move this down to the bottom. And so now I see that I've got this cut right here, which eventually we're going to make it to a transition, but for now it's just a cut, all right? And let me figure out a nice way to lay out the words, "Here we go." All right, so I think I'm going to switch back now to my other typeface, the Buffon. And I'm going to do this, let's see. I'm just going to type out the whole sentence, all 3 words first, and kind of get it right, and then we'll break it up into 3 different words, all right? So I'm going to choose my type tool, and making sure that I have Buffon. Okay, I'm going to just click in here. I'm going to type here. It looks like I'm typing white, so let me select all and just choose like a blue color or something, all right? And here and I'm going to go down to the next. I'm going to hit return, go down, and type go, all in caps with a exclamation point, okay? And additionally, I think what I want to do is make this bolder, right? Right now this came in as Buffon regular, so let me make this bold because I think that's a little more fun. And I'm going to right now it's the type size is 163, but the spacing is 59. That's why it looks like that. So I'm going to move this down so there's a nicer spacing. And in fact, I think what I'm going to do is make this even a little bit more fun. And I'm going to increase the word go because it's like, here we go, okay? And I'm just going to try to take this and make this kind of basically the same size as the word above. I don't know why. Let's see. There seems to be an extra space in there. There we go. And so let me click on go again and make this a little bit bigger. Yeah, there. So now I'm just going to move this down so it's underneath that, right? And additionally, let's make the word go red or something. Okay, so I'm going to choose my eyedropper and go up there, and now we've got this that looks like that, right? So that's kind of fun. So here's this layer. What I'm going to do is give this a nice color, like I don't know, orange. Okay, and I'm going to hit left bracket so that it starts right here, and I'm going to move this down again so that it's on top of my solid. And I'll hit quote to show the center, and with my arrow tool selected, I can choose my pan behind actually and drag this down to the center and click it into the center by pressing Command. And then with my regular arrow tool selected, I can grab this and click it into the center again by holding down on Command, all right? So that's a different method if you don't want to do Option Command Home and then Command Home, okay? So now we've got this right in the center, and that's cool. And we need to figure out a good transition from here to here, okay? And last time we did the up-down thing, so let's come up with something new. And what I kind of thought would be fun is if everything here, the red and the word okay, kind of split in half down the middle and moved off to the sides, right? And then here, these things kind of scaled up individually, right? Because that will preserve the screen direction, because in screen direction, things moving this way from the center to the edges of the screen, no matter how they're moving, it's kind of performing a similar visual thing to something scaling up on screen, which is to say that it's kind of moving from the center out, right? Which is the same thing as scaling in some sense. So let's use that as a transition. Now, in order to set this up, we're going to need to break a bunch of stuff here, right? So the first thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to actually get rid of this red solid and make 2 red solids, each of which are half the size so that they can just move off, right? So let's figure this out. If I press Command Y, okay, and I choose my red color here, the composition is 1920 pixels wide, right? So if you choose, instead of 1920, and make sure that this button is not checked so that the aspect ratio is not locked the way it is, and we choose 960 instead of 1920, because 1920 divided by 2 is 960, right? Simple math, and then hit OK. Now let me turn off this red solid. I'm actually going to delete this red solid. Now you see that I have a red solid that's this wide, and if I take this and click on it, And I need to kind of move this so it starts at the right place, right? And actually, I'll go to the end and kind of trim it here. Now I could take this and move this over and click it kind of right into the end here. And just make sure that it actually doesn't really click into the end. So just make sure you get in nice and close and make sure that goes right to the edge there, right? Perfect. So now we have half of it covered, and all I need to do now is take this and Command D, duplicate this, right? And now move this one over so that it lines up in the middle. And just make sure there's no gap in the middle and there's no gap on the side, which looks like I made a gap on the side here. So don't do what I did, move that over. And now there looks like there is a gap in the middle, which is super annoying. So I'm just gonna do something real quick, and I'm going to take this and I'm just gonna kind of get in here and grab it by the end. And by the way, if I grab my solid by the end here, I can just sort of make it longer and shorter. I'm essentially scaling it, right? I'm just gonna like get in here and just make this like a one click bigger so that it just doesn't have a gap there, okay? I don't think anybody will ever notice that, but a gap would definitely be noticeable. So I'm gonna now, that's fine. Okay, so now I have to take my word okay and split that in half too, okay? So this is gonna be a little bit irritating, and also this is already animated, so we're gonna definitely have to be kind of careful with this. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to take this and I'm going to duplicate it twice so that I have 3 OK layers, right? And this one I'm going to take and I'm going to press T and I'm going to lower the opacity down to 50%. And this will make sense, just follow with me. And I'm going to lock this. And now this is kind of like a reference for lining up these parts of the word OK so that we know we're lining them up perfectly, right? So I'm going to select the one that's on top, and this is going to get a little messy, I promise. And I'm going to double click this. Now we're going to highlight all these layers. It's a little hard to see because it's red on red, but I'm going to take this now and move over, and I'm going to delete the A and the Y and the exclamation point from the top here, all right? And now to see this, I'm going to solo this layer, and I'm going to solo the one that was below it, all right? And now you can see why I've set this at 50%. Because now we can see exactly where this needs to go over to. However, I'm going to press P, okay? And I need to tell you something important about moving the position of layers once there's animation built, all right? Once there's a position path, you can move the entire position path, but for example, if I just selected this one point, this one keyframe, and I moved it, I'd be kind of creating a diagonal animation here. You see where it kind of moves up and over like that? And if you see the position path, it now has this sort of angle to it. I'm going to undo that, right? So I need to adjust all these points together so that the position path can be moved all as one, okay? And additionally, the way to do this is to go to where one of the keyframes is, one of the position keyframes, and select all of the position keyframes that make up the animation path, okay? And in this case, now that I've got them all selected and I'm on one of the keyframes, I can move this and move the whole path. I'm gonna undo that, and now I can just hold down on Shift and slide this back over here, okay? I probably should have broken this up before I did the animation, but just didn't think about it, all right? So this is the way to do that. You select all the position paths and then you move it over, okay? So we'll do that again right now with the word OK in case that wasn't clear, with the word A actually, right? So I'm gonna unsolo that, and now I'm gonna solo my other word, OK too, and I'm gonna double click this, select in here, and now I'm just gonna delete the letters O and K, so now I just have AY, right? And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to press P to reveal my position path, and I'm on the keyframe here, so I'm going to select all of these, press V for my arrow tool, and now I'm just going to hold down on Shift and slide this over, and then I can use the arrow tool to kind of click it right into the right position, right? So now I've preserved the animation path of both of those layers, right? And additionally, I can unsolo all these, and I can turn this one off and unlock it, and I can actually now delete this. All right, a little bit of a jog around there, but that's what we had to do to set this up. Okay, but now we're ready to animate this transition. Okay, so let's go to the end here and figure out sort of when we want it to start happening. Remember that the word here starts right here, so we kind of want this to happen before this. So I'm going to hit shift page down and move 10 frames back, all right? And let's set that arbitrarily as the beginning of our transition, and we can always adjust this, right? So what I'm going to do is take both of my red solids and press P and make position keyframe. And I'm going to go to the end, and for this one, which is on this side, I'm going to take this and hold down on shift and just kind of drag this till it's off screen. And for this one, which is on this side, I'm going to do the same thing, right? And drag it off this way, holding down shift, right? So now I've animated these to move off, all right? And obviously these timings are not right. I just kind of set this arbitrarily. So I'm going to back this up because I think I want this to happen kind of quickly. And now here, I'm going to kind of do the same thing for OK, for my two OK layers, right? I'm going to select both of them, and I already have position, so I'm going to click in here to make a new position keyframe for the position they're already at. And I'm going to move forward till about here. I don't know, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 frames or something like that. And I'm going to take OK and move this one off this way. I'm going to shift and drag it, right? And then I'm going to select this one and do the same and shift and drag it this way, right? So now we have this animation that starts like that. And what's cool about it is that the offset makes it look a little bit like the words OK are kind of starting first and pulling the red off to the side. And we can adjust these timings quite a bit to get this right. I think we'll have to play this down and to see it, but that's close enough for right now. And now I have to do the same thing where, you see, once the red solids start animating off, we can see the background behind it, which is kind of the point. So I need to take my white solid here that's underneath, and this needs to be below it in the layer stack to make this work. And I'm going to drag this back. So now these start to reveal the white, right? So that's going to be a pretty cool transition. And actually, I probably need to take my type and option left bracket and kind of put that down there somewhere too, so that this now pulls on like that, okay? So let's watch this down and figure out the timings for OK and the red backgrounds, all right? So I'm going to select my work area by pressing B around here and N around here. And let's just check this out.
Here we.
Okay, I love that little loop. That's totally hilarious. So let's move on and work on here we go. We need to also break these down into each individual words. Okay, so let's do that first. I'm going to take this and duplicate it 3 times, one for each one, and I'm going to take this original layer and press T and make the opacity 50%, right? And I'm going to lock that. And now I'm going to turn these two off and just solo here and the reference layer. Here we go, okay? So let me double click this and now get in here and delete out the we go. All right, so here's here, and actually maybe this would be easier if we don't solo these. Yeah, it's easier to see on white. Okay, so let me grab here and my V arrow, and I just need to kind of shift and pull this over. And when I get close, I can just use my arrows and line that up perfectly. Okay, great. And another thing about this is that we want the anchor points for all these not to be here where they are right now, or here in the center where we've set it in the past, but for these, we actually want them to scale up from the center of the comp, right, to sort of complete this transition. So we need to actually set the anchor point for each layer in the center. So I'm going to choose my pan behind tool, or Y, and just click that into the center there by holding down a command. All right, so let's do that now for we and go. I'm going to turn this one off, turn on we, double click it, okay, and delete out the word here, and then delete out the word go. Okay, and now I'm just going to take this, choose my V arrow again. Whoops, I grabbed my background by accident. I could lock that if I don't want to do that. Grab my wee bitty layer here and slide this over, and now arrow key this over till it's in place. And then I'm going to choose Y or my pan behind tool. Keyboard shortcuts are your friend for saving time. And grab this and command click this into the center now too, and make sure that lines up perfectly. Turn that off, and we'll do this one more time. This one's going to be easy because all we need to do is grab the words here and we, and if I delete this without getting rid of the space that takes the word go down to the next line, now I can actually leave this word go lined up, which is kind of nice for once, but I still need to change the anchor point. So actually, no, the anchor point defaults to being in the center, so there you go. That one we got lucky on. Now I'm going to unlock the original reference layer and delete this and turn here and we back on, right? So now there we go. Here we go, there we go. Okay, let's do the animation now. Let's go to here. The word here, we need to be on screen right here, okay? So I'm actually gonna animate all three of these. They're gonna have the same scale animation. So I'm gonna do them all at the same time, it makes it easier, and then we'll distribute the keyframes and the layers to put some nice offset so they all line up right, all right? So I'm gonna press S to reveal the scale property and press the stopwatch, and since they're all selected, it'll make keyframes for all of them. And I will go back to the beginning of my layers and take those and just click in here and type 0. Again, because they're all selected now, they've all moved down to 0, right? So not so difficult, so we can kind of watch this, right? Awesome, and this is looking fun already. I think you can kind of see what I was talking about. Now, I think this is probably another example of something we could do a little overshoot on, right? Keep that bouncy, cartoony thing going. So I'm gonna back up 2 frames. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this keyframe, which represents 100%, and I'm going to copy and paste that, and then just select this layer and paste that, and select this layer and paste that, because that just went to 100. And now I'm going to select all 3 of those and dial this up to something like, I don't know, 110. Okay? So now all 3 of them have that same sequence, which is 0, 110, and then down. So they all have that little bounce up, right? So now all we need to do is distribute these layers so that they kind of hit on the timings that we've already established. So I'm going to take we and I'm going to kind of move that so that the overshoot happens right there on that frame. And I'm going to take go and I'm going to kind of do the same and slide this back so that that happens right there. And now I'm going to press N to set my work area there. And let's check out our transition.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Awesome, and I just think right now this is looking a little early maybe on the transition out because here doesn't really start till about here, okay? So I think we can slide everything back a little bit so that it really surrounds this word here as it comes up. So what I'm gonna do is select all of these keyframes for the transition now. I'm gonna kind of drag these back until it looks like it's kind of, okay, that's the exact frame I want. It's basically the first frame of the transition. We can already see the word here there. Now all we need to do is make sure that, okay, now O and K, I can trim these here, option bracket, those end there, but it looks like these keyframes have gone off the ends of the red solid layers. So I just need to kind of hover over here and drag these back till there so that those can go off screen. All right, so now let's check that out with the revised timings.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
That looks excellent. Let's move on to the next word, which is all right. Okay, which I guess technically might be 2 words. So let's go here, back up 1 frame and trim down. I'm going to unlock my white solid now, and let me trim down these by option right bracket. And page down, I'll move forward 1 frame. Okay, let's choose a new solid for a background and type out the words all right. So I'm going to choose select Command Y and eyedrop, and let's choose this dark gray color. It's actually dark purple. All right, great. Oh, whoops, teacher error. I love this. I'm going to undo that, and see what happened is I used my solid settings, which were already in place, which we're still for the half comp, so I just need to go ahead and change this back to 1920 by 1080 and make a full solid, and then delete the other one that I made. And what I'm going to do is move the dark purple one down to the bottom below my white solid, and press left bracket to start it here so I have a nice clean cut. Okay, so now I need to type the words all right on screen. And since I used Buffon rather for the last one, let me switch now to Regina Black again. So type Regina in there and it does the rest, and solid is good. And for this, I think I'm gonna make the word kind of little, because it's like all right. It's just a sort of soft kind of expression here, and it's not a main word. So what I'm gonna do is just got my type tool selected, click in here. What I was thinking is I was going to use some curly brackets, which I like to use these curly brackets, and then put a space in and type all right, and then curly bracket, just so we know it's kind of like, it's not a main lyric or whatever, and I like curly brackets. I think they're fun. Okay, so this looks too big to me, so let's dial this down and make this kind of small, actually. So it's like real small on screen. And I'm going to just take, oops, this is up top, so I'm going to take this and drag this down to the bottom, above my purple solid, and go click on the purple solid, press I to go to the end point, and then select my all right and left bracket to start it there, okay? Additionally, I'm going to Option Command Home and Command Home, move it into the center, and what I'm going to do is select this. I think this is a little hard to read now, so I'm going to go up here to my character window, press the eyedropper, and I'll choose maybe this light blue here, okay? And for the brackets, let's choose a different color for those. Let's make those white. So I'm going to click that, okay, and take these and click that, right? Now, additionally, the brackets, this sort of bugs me a little bit about curly brackets, which they usually default to being kind of lower down than you want them. I kind of want these raised up a little. This is like a OCD designer thing of mine. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to kind of dial this up a little bit here so that looks more centered to me. And actually, let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger too, just for the sake of it. Make it bigger and move it so that it's more centered, right? I kind of like that better. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take just this character and I copy this, go back over here and highlight this one and paste it there. And now it's kind of got the right settings, but it's just the wrong way around. So I just retype the curly bracket like that, and that should be good. Right? So that looks a little fun. Maybe they're a little high. I don't know. So maybe I should move this down to -5. And I can set this down to -5 as well. All right. Enough OCD designer stuff, right? So, and those are all good. What I need to do now is that same sort of annoying thing where I duplicate it and break this up. So let me do that real quick. I'm going to duplicate this 4 times. And let's just do this real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4. I hit Command D, and I did 4 times because there's 4 things, and I want to keep the original one and dial that down 25% and lock that, remember? So this one, I'm going to double click and select everything except for that bracket, grab it, and I will take that. I'm going to turn these other layers off again, choose V, oops, and just shove this over so that it's in place. Just use my arrow tool and move that into place. Okay, and this is should be the word all, so I'll delete that. And I'll delete these. I really wish there was an easier way to do this that I could show you how to do. But unfortunately, for right now, this is what we need to do. There are things that will make this easier in After Effects, but I have not yet taught them to you, so they are more advanced. Okay, I'm going to select the word right and pull this back. And this is just really good practice for doing this, just so you understand the advantages and disadvantages of working with type in After Effects, okay? Of which I think this is a disadvantage. And I'm sure some smarty pants knows a way to do this that I don't, or maybe. I sure wish, but I can't think of any. Alrighty, here we go. Put this back in place. Okay, so now all these are good. I will unlock this all right layer, my original one, and delete that, right? So, and I'm gonna hit save. We are ready to move on to the next transition. And what I'd like to do is build a wipe, what's known as a wipe, okay? Which is basically when you have a solid color that kind of moves across the screen and it helps pull on some graphics like the word all right, but it also, as it wipes across the screen, it fills the screen and therefore it provides us a cut point where we'll be able to get rid of the words here we go seamlessly, right? So let's go ahead and build that out. We've got our all right here. Let me get in a little closer. So what I want to do is I want to make a new solid, okay? And let's make a new red solid. I'm going to make Command Y and choose the red color from up here, okay? So now I have this. And what we need to do is let's move this to the bottom. I'm going to hit Shift Command and left bracket so it moves all the way to the bottom. And then I will move this up manually so it covers the word all right. And actually I need to move this up now that I think about it. This has to go above all of this, right? And it's going to start somewhere around here. So let's back up like 10 frames, and we'll make rough timings. Actually, that's too close to the end here. So let's stick it about here, and we'll just eyeball this, right? So if I put my red solid here, okay, what I could do is I can move forward 10 frames, shift page down, and press P to reveal the position property, and click the stopwatch to make a keyframe. And now I can go back to the in point, and I'll just move this off, and I'm going to hold down on shift, so I'm kind of moving this parallel off screen, right? So you can see now that this is going to kind of like move on, right? And we will build the type and stuff to move on with it, okay? So this starts to come on, and when it gets to be full screen, that's when our cut will happen. And what we can actually do is move our all right and bracket layers up top here, above that red solid. Since they're also colored red, let's go ahead and click here and give these a different color, like aqua or something, just so we can kind of more easily see them. All right, so we need this to wipe on, and we need these to also move on. So let me go ahead and select those, the brackets and the type, and I'm going to press P and make a position keyframe, and just jump back to the start of the layer, okay? And what I'm going to do is take all of these now. With my V arrow, I'm just going to move these all off to the side, right? So we're starting to build this, right? Now the timings are all off. What we need to do is, first, what we want to have happen is these words all right need to come on in the correct order, which is this bracket first, and then the word right, and then the word all, and then this bracket, right? And they kind of like follow each other in. So what we need to do is kind of distribute these this way. Starting with this one, this is this layer, is sort of move this up and move this up and move this up and this up, right? So now we've kind of created this staggered animation for this, right? And then let's check out the way this looks right now and see how it looks. There is some, oh, I see. Just one thing is that the white solid here that's at the bottom kind of ends right here. So we need to just pull this up for now, just so we don't get this sort of like black screen that pops on in the middle there. So let me press B and N, and let's just preview this. And that looks pretty good already, I think. I think that looks really good. Now, I will say that I think this red is too bright. We had originally planned this out to have a dark colored background, as you remember, which actually that layer is still here. I'm going to delete that. But what I want is to take my red wipe, right? I'm going to duplicate this, okay? And then I'm going to hit Shift Command Y and open the solid settings on this. I move this back over here and click this and make this the dark gray color. Not the black, by the way, which is behind it, but just make sure you're clicking in the gray, right? Okay, so now I've got a good solid color there, and it's got the same animation keyframes on it. So all I need to do now is take all of these layers and click this back like one frame, and now there's like a double wipe where you see the red and the sort of dark gray color, right? And what we could even do to make this a little bit more exciting if we want is right now, the wipe happens in the two wipe timings, the red and the dark gray. They're kind of happening together. But what you could do is take the final keyframe for the gray and move this for the dark purple and move this up one. And you see how now that decreases the size between the red layer and the gray layer, because the red is moving slightly slower, so it kind of looks like the gray kind of overtakes the red as it goes across screen, right? And you could even, if you delay the start of the gray one more frame, then that'll even be more dramatic. Or if you start it later, it'll be even more dramatic. You have to find kind of the right balance here. I think I like it back 2 frames, so something like that, right? And additionally, you can also see that the Here We Go layers, they kind of start to disappear, or they do disappear right there. So we also need to drag these back, or Option and right bracket, so that they don't just disappear off screen, right? Additionally, we could have them, as this wipe starts to happen, we could have these layers be influenced by this sort of horizontal direction of the screen, which might make it a little bit nicer. So if I press P to reveal the position and click the stopwatch here, what I can do is kind of move down a few frames till those are pretty much covered up, and just sort of click and drag these just a little bit So they're still covered up, but now we just feel them moving as this all transitions. So let's check that out.
Go. Forward. Go. Forward. Go. Forward. Go. Forward.
Right? So you feel that just kind of all moves together kind of nicely, right? And that makes a really fun transition. And let's just check the overall timings of the words and back this up a little.
Here we go. Forward. Here we go. Forward.
Okay, cool. I think that looks way better on the timings and is looking really fun. So let's move on to the next thing, which is we're going to start the part where it's like really fast now. Lots of words, okay? So this is going to be really awesome. First thing I want to do is take the, when we copied and pasted from the lyric sheet, I'm going to take that, turn it on, and move it up to the top. Shift bracket, Shift Command and right bracket to move it up to the top here. And what I want to do is now get into the copying pasting thing. You make a keyframe and you put it on the, okay? I'm going to copy this, Command C. Timeline, I think I'm going to cut and have like a whole new shot just for timeline. I'm going to turn this off now, and I'm going to Shift and Command and left bracket, move that down to the bottom. All right, so I've got that copied, and additionally, I'm going to take these layers and move one frame back by hitting page up and trim these by Option left bracketing right there. So now those all end just in time for this. Okay. And I'm going to make a new solid, Command Y, and I think I'll choose this sort of light blue color. Hit OK. And now I just need to move this down to the bottom. Okay, and I'm going to press left bracket to sort of start that frame right there. And I should note that my plan is to make a cut here, okay? Of all the kinds of transitions, a cut, in some sense, is really the best one. In some sense, it's the most invisible one. And I'll prove it to you because every movie, TV show, and commercial and everything you ever watch cuts all the time. And chances are you're really probably not aware of it unless it's a really clunky cut or unless you've studied filmmaking, which is, I guess, there's a chance of that. But in any case, motion designers, we always want to make all these fancy transitions where things move off and flow and all that stuff. But sometimes a cut is really the best option. It's an abrupt change, so it brings a lot of attention to itself in some cases. And also, it's something that it's a transition that can happen over basically one frame. So if you don't have a lot of time either, a cut is sometimes the best transition, right? In this case, I want to cut, right? So I still have the type in my I've still copied the type and it's still in my memory. So I'm going to click here with my type tool, and then I'm going to press Command V rather, to paste it there, right? And this is, of course, Helvetica still. So what I'm going to do is take this and just move this down to the bottom, put it above my solid, and press left bracket so that it starts here. I'm going to color code this a little bit. I'm going to make this a light blue here. And this I'll make like, I don't know, yellow or something. I love yellow. So let me also take this and Option Command Home and move the anchor point to the center, and Command Home and move the whole layer so that it's now at the center. Additionally, I'm going to double click on this and I'm going to choose Regina, right, black, and press this for all caps. And additionally, I'm going to put this on 2 lines, and I'm going to kind of split it right here. It looks pretty much in the center to me. Back that up, delete that, and put a little return there between them. All right. So now I think this looks good, but it's very small. So I'm going to select all my type, and I'm going to, not scale it up, but I'm going to increase the type size. Okay. Maybe something like that. Doesn't need to be huge or tiny. Maybe even smaller, maybe like 90. Okay. And then let's also set the line spacing to 90 because right now it's all bunched up on top of one another, right? And I'm going to select that, and now I'm just going to press this back on to see my title action safety so I can see this sort of center again. Press V, I'm getting close here, and I'm just going to raise this up while hitting Shift and move this up so that this is kind of spaced as much as I can so that the center is spaced between these 2 lines, right? That means they're in the center now, all right? And I like having things centered. I think this looks good. The one change I'm going to make to this, though, is the word keyframe is really the main point of this sentence, all right? So I'm going to color that a different color so it really stands out. And just so I can show you how to do this as well. I'm going to double click on this to sort of highlight all my type, and then click away, and then just select the word keyframe. Go over here to my character window, press the eyedropper, and I'm going to choose like this dark blue, all right? So you can see how easily you could do that. Turn this off here, right? So that looks pretty good, and I'm happy with it. I think that'll make a nice cut. But now we have a bunch of work to do, okay? The idea here in my head is to show you how to do this little animation, which is kind of not an animation, but which will look like an animation. And the idea here is to have, because this is like really fast, you make a keyframe and you put it on the timeline, right? So these are happening really fast. And what I was kind of thinking is just having them each one turn on just at the exact moment that the word comes on, and it'll create kind of an animation that moves across. It'll be like, you make a keyframe, pop, 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 pop. And because it's so fast, I think this will look really cool and look like really animated, even though technically we're not really going to animate these, just kind of turn them on and off. I'll show you what I mean, but first we have to do this long step, unfortunately, where we break this down into each individual word. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 words. Okay, and I want to leave this one as a reference. So I'm going to duplicate this 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I just pressed Command D to duplicate, right? So now I have a ton of those. And let me give those a different color just so I can distinguish them from this, which is my reference. And I'll hit T to show the opacity and dial this down to 25 and lock this, okay? And now I'm gonna go through and just, I'm gonna turn all these off and double click this and delete all the other words except for the word you. And now that shifts it over as per before, and I'm just gonna zoom in and hold shift and kind of move this over until it's in place. And I can use my arrow keys for the final kind of couple of clicks here, right? All right, so we've done this a few times now, and I'm just gonna fast forward through this because it's sort of boring. It's a great step for you to have to take, but I don't think you need to sit here and watch me do this a million more times. So fast forwarding now. Okay, I finished that up now, and I'm going to go ahead and unlock and delete the reference layer. Okay, so here are all of my words, and they've all been broken down into separate layers, right? And I know that some of you just got bored even just watching that, and hopefully none of you decided you didn't want to become an animator, but basically doing any kind of motion graphics and animation is a game sometimes that has a lot of tedious parts before going through to make something cool, okay? And this is one of those. So this is just kind of the sort of thing you do as a motion graphics person all the time, all right? So get used to it. But now what I will say is, having done that, we've really created almost all the animation now. This should go very quickly, okay? Because we do have the timings of all of this, so we just need to kind of shove it all into place. So if I go to where my word make starts, I can just go here and hit left bracket and move that layer to start there. Go here, move again, go down to A, left bracket. And here's even a cool trick, is that the letters J and K on the keyboard will move you around to some degree. Since I have no keyframes exposed here, when I hit J and K, actually, it'll jump between these markers. If there were keyframes in here, J and K would also jump between the keyframes. But in this case, it's just the markers on screen. So if I hit J, I jump to the next marker. So I can just hit J, then go here and option left bracket, or just left bracket that there, and then hit J, move to the next one, make sure it's the right word. Is it the word and? Yes. Now left bracket, start that there. Hit K, rather. I think I said J earlier, but J goes backwards and K goes forwards. Okay, so K, and then bracket, and then K, select the next one, and bracket, etc. So this won't take very long to do, and you can kind of watch me as I do this. Okay, the last one, boom. Okay, so now, it's not going to have the words timeline in, but check this out.
You make a keyframe and you put it on that side. You make a keyframe and you put it on that side. You make a keyframe and you put it on that side.
Okay, so it appears to kind of be animating, but it's just really all these layers are turning on in time, okay? So that's a kind of fun way of doing this. And again, what we need to do now is just go to the next cut point. And again, I think I want to do a cut for this. And actually it's here. So I want to cut and go to timeline and have that be like really big or something. So let me back up one frame from here, and now I can trim all those layers there by Option and bracket. Okay. And additionally, I can back up one frame and trim my blue solid here too. So that ends right there, okay? So then we'll go forward one frame, and now we're on where the word time should start. And I'm gonna hit Command Y and choose this time a red solid. Okay, and start that here, right? And now we can see this cut. And what I want to do now is maximize the contrast. And that's why I put this red background on, so it's kind of like a big shock from this like nice, cool, light colored background, right? And similarly, now I think I want to have a really big type for this, because this type was kind of on the smaller side. So now, boom, like timeline, really big, okay? So let me choose my type tool. And I think I'll go with Regina Black in caps. And this time, I think I'm going to go with the whiter color, so I'll choose that, right? And now I'll click on here, and I'm going to write timeline, all right? And let me start that here by choosing left bracket. And I will choose my pan behind tool, move this up, and click this into the center, and then choose my regular arrow, press quote to show my action and title safety guides and this center point here. And now I will get this near to the center and command click and just snap that into the center, okay? Select this, go up here to my type size again, and make this bigger. And I really want to make this big, like big, that big, okay? And this actually shifted this down, so I need to do this again. I choose my pan behind tool, snap this up into the center, choose the arrow tool, and now snap this back. Command click, snap that back into the center. All right. Now I do want time and line to be two different words. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this twice actually, and really quickly just lower the opacity on this and do this real fast. I'm going to take time and just get rid of line and move time over. Okay. I see. I need to also turn this one off. Sorry, this one off, that one back on, and get in here and just click this into place. Good. And now do the opposite. Turn this one on, delete the word time. Just have the word line. And now move this back over. Okay, and shift, and I'm holding shift. And I can just sort of click this with the arrows and make sure I'm getting it exactly in the right position. There. Awesome. Now I will delete this and turn both back on. Okay, you see, with two words, it's not as bad. And additionally, I will give these some color just so I can distinguish them at a glance. Excellent. Ready to animate these. So what I think I want to do here is have these kind of pop on and scale on. Let's do another little scale animation, but this time the anchor point is in the center of each layer, which is great, so that they'll kind of like pop on one and then the next, all right? So let's see, let's build the animation first and then we'll worry about the timings. Let me move line underneath time, and I'm just gonna move like 6 frames or something, because this word time is gonna have to happen really quick. So I'm gonna press S and make a scale keyframe, go back to the start of it, and I'm gonna drop this down to like 25%. I don't think I wanted to start at 0, because again, this is happening really quick. And let's do that little overshoot as well. So I'm going to back up 2 frames, and I'll copy this 100% keyframe in there, and then I'll just scale this up to like 115 or something, right? So it just animates on, boom, a little bounce, right? And what I can do is just copy and paste these keyframes actually into the line layer. The anchor point's in its own center, so it should kind of just work fine. Now this, because line is going to come on second, what I actually think I want is to have this dip down to 0, not 25%, so it's not on screen at the start, okay? And then I need to back this up so that this overshoot, I think, is happening probably around here, around when that word starts coming in. But we'll check those timings. And let's just look at this. Let's just play this down to see what it looks like with rough timings. It's pretty funny already, I think, actually. I think the times are pretty good. Maybe we could even have this start a little bit bigger, like 50%, and maybe even make this a little bit quicker, like back it up 1 frame or so. Let's check that out. It's a little more immediate that way, and it happens a little quicker. I would see what happens if I undo that and back that up one frame, just because I like to fiddle. Now I think I like it the other way better. Cool. So that's good. That's pretty close to being done here, right? And let's go ahead and just move on to the next thing. I think that's pretty simple. Or what we can actually do is, what I like to do, we're about halfway done, and hit home, go back to the beginning, press B, and let's preview all of the animation that we've done so far.
Everybody ready?
Okay.
Here we go.
Alright. You make a keyframe and you put it on the table.
Everybody ready?
Okay.
Here we go.
Alright. You make a keyframe and you put it on the table.
This is coming out so well. I totally love this track that Joey made, and I think the colors and the type and the animation are looking really fun. So let's move on and finish this sucker up. We're at our second long, fast sentence here, right? You change a property and animate it just fine. So what I'm going to do is, let me first, okay, I'm at my frame where this starts. I'm going to back up one frame, boop, and I will trim the timeline and red solid there, move forward. Okay, so I'm going to make a new solid, Command Y, and let me choose this dark blue color, okay? And now I'll move this back down to the bottom, and start it right there. And I will color it dark blue as well, just so I can kind of see that. Cool. Now, we're going to, let me close these up. Let me select all and twirl all these down so I can sort of compress this down as much as possible. Okay, and now we're going to take our type layer that we copied and pasted from the lyrics sheet, and I'm going to now take this line, oops, just this. You change a property and animate it, because I'm going to do just fine like I did timeline. So I'm going to copy that, right, and turn that off and put it back down to the bottom. Shift, Command, and left bracket to go down to the bottom. And now here I'm going to select my type tool, click here, and paste that there, right? And then start that layer there by clicking left bracket. Additionally, I'm going to Option Command Home and Command Home to move it to the center. I will click this and I will make this bouffant, bold, okay? And I'm going to increase the type size up. Whoop, that's too big. I don't know, something like this, right? So the animation I have in mind for this is another little kind of non-animated animation trick that I want to show you. It's going to be kind of similar to how we did the last long line, but with one difference. In the last line, here, let's look at this. Each word comes on when it's supposed to, and then it stays on, okay? So it builds on a sentence. For this next animation, what I want to do is have each word come on just for the time where it's being said and then go off. So it's going to kind of make a more staggered left to right animation as this happens. This is going to be really fun, I think. So, unfortunately, to do that, we have to do the really unfun step of now duplicating this layer a ton of times and taking out the words and relining them back up. So I'm going to do that now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words, so it's not as bad as before. Okay. You change a property and animate it. So let me use this as a reference and duplicate this 7 times. And I'm just going to go and fast forward because I believe you know how to do this at this point. Oh, and I just remembered one thing, which is that I said I was going to break the word property and the word animate down into little phonetic sections so I could even have more fun building this on. So I need more layers here. So yeah, I'm going to do that as well in fast forward. Okay, did that as well. Great. So now I can turn this off and delete this reference layer as well. And now I've got all that nice. So what I should do now is quickly, just line this all up so that it animates properly. So you should start there and change should start there. But unlike before, I'm going to now jump back one frame and trim U so that it ends the frame before, right? And then I'll go to where A starts, jump back a frame, trim change, go ahead one frame, just using page up and page down. Trim this left bracket there, so A starts there. And then go to the beginning of property and just kind of do the same thing. Go here, trim this here, move to there, page up, trim it, move down one, move this there, go there, page up, trim, down one, etc. Okay, so this is, you change a property, you see how this is going to work now. And it's just really important, again, that I do that page up thing, because if I line this up here and trim this here and then trim this here, I've created that one frame overlap that I was talking about that I'd rather you didn't do. So go ahead and just make sure that it looks like this, like a little staircase with no overlap, okay? And getting in here and go here, go back one. Okay, so this is a problem. So it looks like the way that I've put the timings in here, the word and only has one frame, and you pretty much never want something to appear on screen for just one frame. It's so fast, it's a 30th of a second. So I'm going to kind of cheat this. First I'm going to listen to it and make sure I did put this marker in the right place. And let's just listen to this again. Okay, I think and actually starts here, so that's good. I'm going to pull that up one, pull this up two, or to right there, and now I'll pull this, which is my and layer, there, okay? So now I have a few frames at least for and two, which is really quick, but at least it's something. You just don't want something on for one frame. You almost never want a one frame of anything. Okay, so moving along, go back here, move back one, trim. This is also one, two, this is 3 frames, okay? Go back there, trim this there. We're getting almost done with this sentence. Trim it, move forward one, and click this there. And this is a great test for using the bracket keys, okay? Animate it. Okay, last one there. And now I'm going to go to just and move back one and trim this there, okay? And so I'm going to hit O and N, and then select that and I and B, and let's just watch this part down, okay?
You change a property and animate it. You change a property and animate it. You change a property and animate.
Okay, so let's look at actually this and this part, and we can look at the differences of what I built, and you can kind of see how those are different.
You make a keyframe and you put it on that side. You change a property and animate it.
So you see, this one kind of builds on, and it's a little bit softer, and then this one, like, it's changing each time, so it appears to be moving more right to left. I don't know. That's the way it looks to me in any case, right? So let's do the just fine, all right? So what I plan to do here is hopefully cheat a little bit and line up with just fine. Now I'm going to take timeline and this red solid, and I'm just going to duplicate all 3 of these. Now I'm going to take these and move them down to the bottom here, well, more to the bottom, and start them here, okay? Now, of course, this says timeline instead of just fine, but this is fairly easily changed, okay? Where it says time, I'm going to duplicate this and just write the word just, okay? And where it says line, I'm going to duplicate this and type the word fine. Oops, except for I typed the word fune for some reason. So let me change that. Just fine. Now you see these are a bit run together. They look a little bit close. So what we could do if we really want to make this perfect is we can actually duplicate the word just, right? Turn the other 2 off and type fine. Sorry, I can't spell the word fine today. Okay. And take this and click this and command click this back into the center. That does not look at the center. There we go. And now this can be our reference, and we can turn this down to 25% and line this up with this real quick. And this one, turn this on and line this up now. It's just really important always to preserve the line spacing of all the type as much as possible. Okay, I can delete my reference. Cool. Now these are still animated because I duplicated them. So if I press U, I will see that they have the animation in there already. And so technically, we could probably just adjust this timing, maybe this 1 frame so that this overshoot happens when the word's beginning. And I'm going to hit Option Command B with this layer selected, which sets the work area to the beginning and end of that layer. Okay, so the timings are right. So we could technically move on here, but of course I want to make things more complicated and change this just a little bit. instead of having this animation where these are scaling up, let's have them scale down, okay? Just to make a little bit of a difference here. So I want to keep these timings because the timings work pretty well. So I'm going to take this 100% scale keyframe, right? And copy that. And I'm going to paste that there to cover this keyframe and there to cover that keyframe. So now I've got the timings preserved, but it doesn't animate at all. Okay? So now all I need to do is make this one just say bigger at the start, maybe like 125. And then this one here, this is our overshoot, but now it's kind of like an undershoot overshoot, right? So I'm going to make this like 85. And then this is back to 100, right? So it's like big, little, big, right? And then I'll do the same thing with the word fine. So I'm going to take the final 100% keyframe and copy and paste it there for the overshoot and copy, and paste it there for the beginning. Now this one I want to make even bigger, I think, at the start. So let me make this like 150. And then have it smack down and be also like 85. And then finally settle back up here into 100. And let's see what that looks like. Okay, so one thing is I forgot to do is I forgot to trim the fine layer so that it starts right here. So let's do that and see what that looks like. And also, I think they both could be bigger. I don't know. This one maybe is 150, and then this one maybe is 175. Let's see it like a little bit in a little bit more context. Okay, that's awesome. I'm loving this. So let's move on. Here I have my solid down here at the bottom that's still blue, so I'm going to go to where its is and back up one frame and trim that along with its fellow companions. Okay, and I'm going to go forward one. I'm going to make a new solid, and I'm going to choose this dark gray, dark purple color, right? Okay, and start that right there. And now we've got the line, its animation. So I will choose my type tool, and I will click and type its '(s) animation. And I think animation wants to be capitalized in this case because it's sort of the name of the product, I think, is what Joey was thinking. I'm not quite sure, and I never would claim to know exactly what Joey's thinking, but I believe animation oatmeal in his mind was some sort of breakfast food, which sounds good to me. So let me move this so that it starts here, and I'm going to take this and Option Command Home to put the anchor point in the center, and then Command Home to put this in the center. I like this size, and I like the color of it being this white. Let me make sure it's my white that I've got here. Yep. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do now is duplicate this twice and do that same thing where I load the opacity of this and just line this up. Okay, a boring step that I'm sure you now know how to do quite well. Oops, I do not want to select everything, just the word animation, delete that. Let me turn this one off for 1 sec, choose my V arrow and move this over, click it into place. And I'll turn this off, double click that. Get rid of the word its from this layer, and now V arrow, move this over. Okay, that was pretty fast. Turn that back on, delete the reference. Boom. Okay, so the animation for this that I want to have happen is to have it pop in from the bottom with a little bit of an overshoot again. I sort of thought that looked fun at the beginning, and it's like we're kind of returning back to that after this really fast thing. All right, so let's set keyframes for the position for both of these, okay? And so what I'll do is I'll press P and the stopwatch to set keyframes, and I'm just going to move these forward a little bit. And now I'm going to move these down toward the bottom and pull them off, okay? Have them come up, and then, let's see, how many frames was that? 1, 2, 3, not very many, 3 frames. Okay, so let me widen this out a little bit. It's got to be at least, I don't know, 6 frames or something, and we can adjust this later. And for the its, I'll build this for both of them, actually, okay? I'm just going to copy and paste, and then I'll do my overshoot here. I will select them both, and I will select them both, and I will move them both up a click or two. Okay, so now they both do this, and I can separate out the timings. I think what I'm going to have to do Actually, looking at this is really quick on it. So I'm going to delete this first one out. I'm not going to have this come in from the bottom. I'm just going to have it start about here. Okay, so it happens a little bit quicker. This way, this means I can kind of like make this happen over fewer keyframes. And let's see what that looks like with those timings. I'm going to press B and N to widen this out. Cool. Now, what we could do is just have another cut here, and we could probably even, let's see if we can get away with this. I'm going to color this my dark purple color, and let me color these like yellow or something just so I can see them. Now you take all these and trim these right here, okay, and I'm going to duplicate it because the phrase repeats, and maybe I can get away with using some of this animation and some of these letters being already broken down, right? So move this down to the bottom now and start it here by pressing left bracket. Okay, and looks like I've accidentally done that one frame overlap I've warned you about. So let me back up one frame, page up, and trim these here. Option bracket. Okay. So now let's look at these timings and these keyframes. It's very similar to what it was. Okay, so what I want to do now is let's change this typeface to the other one, to Regina. Okay, and let's make it bigger as well. And let's see if we could do this without messing up too much of the animation. So if we move this up in the font size, it's going to make them bigger, preserve the anchor point, and then it's going to mess this up. But what happens if we scale it up, it's going to do the same thing. So we can't really preserve much of our animation here. But what we could do is make these all caps, and maybe that screws it up. Okay, we need to just redo these timings anyway. So let's make this bigger. Okay. And making it bigger won't affect the animation at all, but it will affect the spacing. So now what we'll have to do is, let's see, if I duplicate this and solo just this one, I can type its animation, okay? And now take this and, okay, it's got position on it. So we need to go to one of the position keyframes, select all of them as we did before, right? And now we need to drag this so this now anchor point goes back into the center, right? And I'm going to hold shift, and I can't click this in here. I'm just going to line it up as best as possible. Remember, to move the position path, I need to select all of the keyframes and go to where the keyframe, one of the keyframes is to move it, okay? So now I've got this about right. And now I just need to use this as my reference, change the opacity on this down to like 25, and do this one more time. Thought we could avoid it for this layer. So let's see. It's animation. Okay, and again, because this has animation on it, I do need to select all the keyframes and go to the last keyframe, and now I can move the whole position path with it. Otherwise, you'd just be moving one position keyframe, which is different. Okay, so I'm now going to do the same thing with animation. Selecting all of the keyframes and going to the final keyframe so I can move it all, and just click that back into position, maybe one arrow key. Great. Okay, so now here's my reference on top, so I will delete that. Okay, and now let's move the work area. Actually, let's look at both of these its animations.
It's animation. It's animation. It's animation. It's animation. It's animation. It's animation.
Cool. I like that, except for I forgot that what I want to do is give this like a different background color. So I'm not sure if I've gone over this. To edit a solid, rather than making a new solid, if you select a solid that's already been made and you Shift Command Y, that edits a solid that's already been made. Remember, Command Y is a new solid. Shift Command Y edits the one that's already been made. Okay, so let's go ahead and like choose my dark blue color, right? Great. And now it looks like this.
It's animation. It's animation. It's animation. It's animation.
Awesome. Let's look at our last phrase now, and then we will be done. And the first thing that we should do here, looks like I need to back up one and trim these actually, but the first thing that we want to do is, if you think about this for a sec, if this is sort of like a commercial for something called Animation Oatmeal, then we should probably come up with a pretty nice frame here at the end for it. And in a way, we kind of have to design like a quickie logo for Animation Oatmeal. I don't want to overdo it or anything, but if this was a real commercial, we'd be kind of ending on a nice frame of the product name, Animation Oatmeal. Okay? So first things first, I just kind of wanted to come up with a nice looking design, and I don't need to belabor this, but what I'm going to do first is make Command Y and make a new solid, and I think I'm going to choose this whitish one. Okay? And start that here, and move this down toward the bottom. You'll see that in general, we're really working kind of top to bottom, except for in a few places where something that came up needed to be on top of something else. But this is generally how you work, sort of top to bottom or bottom to top. Yeah, usually one way or the other, okay? So our final It's animation starts here, and we're gonna make a little like, kind of a cool little logo for this. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to choose my type tool, and I think I want Regina Black, and I don't want it all caps in this case. And I think what I want is dark blue for the word animation. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to type animation, okay? And I'm going to hit return and type oatmeal, okay? And let's see, let me put this in the center and put the anchor point in the center. All right, that's my solid. Okay, here we go. And let me shift command and left bracket, move that down to the bottom, and now manually just move that up top. And what I can do is just color the solid something and start, let's see, I'll start this here by left bracketing my animation oatmeal. And okay, so first things first, let me get a good size for this. Oops, let me select all. And get a good size for this. And since this is kind of the end, the name of the product, I want it, not huge, but a good size. So let's say 170 and make this 170. And actually that looks a little far. I'm going to cheat that up a little bit. And I thought it'd be cool if I made the oatmeal red here. Okay, so yeah, that looks to me like a little bit of a product name or something. So I'm going to take this and again move this up so it's kind of centered in the middle, right? Cool. Looks a little like American Airlines to me in a kind of a funny way, but it's American Oatmeal, so that seems appropriate. So great, that's our logo. Okay, when you do keyframe killer, you might similarly, I think that ends on the phrase keyframe killer. Keyframe killer. So you might want to come up with like a special little design for that too. Alrighty, and now let's do that boring thing where we separate this out, okay? And this is the last time we're going to have to do this for this. You're going to have to do it for your homework, though, I assume. So I'm going to make 2 more copies of it and take this one and lower the opacity to 25% and turn the middle one off. Double-click this. Get rid of the word oatmeal. Oh, look, animation stayed in the same place. That's awesome. Turn that back on. Oh, this is going to work out, actually. Oatmeal stays in the same place too, so that was easy. I can now delete my reference. We didn't really even need that. Turn animation back on. Okay, perfect. So I got these guys here. Now, the real question is, now that it's designed, how are we going to actually transition into this? Because I don't want to just do like a simple cut for this, because it is sort of the last part, and we do have a little bit more time here. And also we've just done a bunch of cuts. So again, this is creating a different rhythm, and this rhythm wants it to feel like it's coming to an end a little bit. So a transition might help us with that. Okay, so I'm going to back up here. And we need to start the transition back here. And I was kind of thinking it might be really fun to do a little animation where everything's kind of collapsing in toward the center. Before we did that kind of separating from the center on the horizontal. So let's kind of do the opposite here, where things kind of collapse down toward the center, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my blue solid, and let me find the end here and go 10 frames and just sort of pick that randomly as a timing. Now, if I scale this down and I unchain the scale and I just scale it on the up-down, the vertical, right? I can have this kind of like pull right down toward the center. Boom. And looks like it's flattening down to a straight line, right? So I'm going to make an animation like that. 100% scale keyframe, move forward the 10, back up the 1, I guess, and then set this on the y-axis down to 0, right? So it's got that going on, right? And additionally, why don't I duplicate this solid, okay? And take the one at the bottom and now Shift Command Y and change this. Remember that edits the solid. Change this now to the lighter blue. Okay, so now this one's underneath that one, and right now we're not seeing that animation because if I press U, the animation's happening at the same time, right? But if I delayed one or the other of these animations, you would start to see, for example, the light blue come down, right? So we can kind of create an animation where multiple things are kind of coming down. And if you remember before, we did that little trick on the wipe where we changed the timing. So of one of these keyframes so that they start separately, but they eventually converge into one. So if I take this for the light blue and click this back, now I create an animation where it starts out a little bit thicker and gets thinner as it goes down the blue line, right? So it's sort of like moving a little bit faster. And if we delay this even one more frame, this is even clearer. But we have to look at the timings of this because we don't want it to go too fast that it's just really whipping by and strobing. So let's hit B and check this out. It's a little bit fast. So let me see if I back that up the one frame, see what that looks. I like that a little bit better. Yep, so we'll make this all work out. So one thing that we need to do is take the white now, again, and pull this back so that it gets revealed underneath, right? Right. Boom. Okay, and we'll need to do something with this animation oatmeal as well. But first, let's work on its animation. Okay, so both of the animation, let's see, where are we? Its and animation, yeah. The anchor point's in the center of those layers. So we can kind of do a similar thing. In fact, I think what we can do is just copy and paste, copy these scale keyframes, the unchained scale keyframes here into these two layers, right? I'm gonna press U to show all the animated properties, and now it all kind of squeezes down together, right? Which is not actually what we want. I think what we want is for the type to be delayed so that that squeezes down later, right? So it's kind of like reacting, like it's getting pushed down by the two layers that sort of snap down onto it, right? And even so, if we took the American and oatmeal and put that underneath there, those would be revealed too, right? So in a way, that's kind of like all the transition that we need. But what would the fun be if that was all we did, right? So let's try to make this a little bit better and not just have it sort of wipe and reveal animation oatmeal. In fact, oatmeal doesn't need to even come in till here. So let's trim oatmeal there, okay? And see what it looks like just with animation, okay? So now animation's a little raised up. So maybe what we want to have happen is, let's go to the first frame of animation and make a position keyframe for this. So I'm going to press P and then click the stopwatch. And then animation is kind of more, if you had to say whether it was on the top of the screen or the bottom, it's certainly more on the top of the screen than the bottom. It's toward the center, but it's still a little bit up on the top. So I'm going to choose my V arrow. And what I'm thinking about doing is having the word animation be moving down at the same time because it'll kind of reinforce the screen direction that's happening up at the top here. So what I'm going to do is take animation and just kind of move it up, I don't know, to about here so that I can start it on this frame and it'll be slowly just moving down and in, okay? And additionally, I probably want to do a little bit of a bounce overshoot on that as well. So I will take that final keyframe and copy and paste it, and now just move this down a little bit, straight down from there. So let's check this out. It looks a little slow to me. I want this to have a little more snap, so let me move that up. Yeah, I think that's the wrong direction. Let me pull that up this way then. Split the diff. Split the diff. Okay. Okay, great. So now all we have to do is animate the word oatmeal. And just to make this slightly more challenging and cool and interesting, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to divide the word oatmeal into the word oat and the word meal and have one come in from the right and one come in from the left. I think that'd be a little bit sillier and funnier way to end it. So I need to I lied, and I do need to do this one more time. So I'm going to duplicate this again and turn this down to 25% and turn the middle one off and double click that, and I'm just going to get rid of the word meal there and shove the word oat back over. It's unanimated yet, so this is the best time to do this. Okay, turn that one off. Turn this one on. Double click this. Delete oat. Okay, and now just take meal, zoom in a little bit, and shift and slide it over, and then click it in with my arrows. Okay, perfect. Didn't take too long, and I will delete the reference. Turn the oat back on. Cool. So let's have the word oat fly in over like 6 frames, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and maybe even do a 2-frame overshoot. So let me start oat here. Okay, and let me go to the marker point for it and press P, make a position keyframe by clicking on the stopwatch, and go to the beginning and move this off here, right? And now do that thing where I go 2 frames. Actually, that's going to be really quick. Go 2 frames this way, and I'm going to copy and paste that, go back to here, and make this into my overshoot keyframe by just pulling this a little farther that way. Okay. And then I'll do the opposite, but same thing for meal. I will make a position keyframe here, press P, press the stopwatch, jump back. Let's see, I think this was 8 plus 2. No, I just did 8 in total, so, okay, 10, 1, 2. Okay, so that's 8 frames. So let me take this and move this off screen, holding down on Shift to move it horizontally, okay? And now I'll put an overshoot on 2 frames. And so what I'll do is I'll copy and paste this. We're so close to being done. And now go back to the overshoot frame and pull this a little bit that way. All right, and let's see what that looks like. I think that's going to be fun. Let me put the end of my work area here and play this down.
It's animation. It's animation. It's animation.
Yeah, I think that looks awesome. I still feel like animation's moving too slow. Gosh. So why don't what I could do is move this, I'll just move this up more. Maybe that'll help.
It's animation.
Yeah.
It's animation. It's animation.
I think that's really fun. And I might cheat these each up a couple of frames just so we can get the logo on a little bit sooner.
It's animation. It's animation.
Okay, cool. So I think we're pretty much done. Of course, I could fiddle with this for many, many more hours, but I'm not going to subject you to that. So let me select all my layers, and twirl this down and kind of collapse everything. And let me go to the beginning and set my work area beginning there. And actually, if you listen to this song, and if we look at the waveform monitor real quick, you'll see that it kind of fades out and ends here, and then there's like a couple of extra seconds here. You probably don't need those, so let's kind of like audio scrub through this and figure out exactly where we can stop this. Okay, certainly by here, it's definitely faded out, okay? And maybe even sooner. So what I'm going to do is trim the audio layer there, and then I'll trim my video layers, the final ones there. I'll press N to end the work area there. And then here's a really nice trick. If you want, you can right-click in the work area, and then you can trim comp to work area. So when I let go of that, it kind of like makes this now exactly that length. And now I don't have any extra time at the end of my comp, which is kind of nice. I'm going to select all, and again, twirl this down. And let's go ahead and preview the whole animation before we declare it finally over.
Everybody ready?
Okay.
Here we go.
Alright.
You make a keyframe and you put it on the table. You change a property and animate it.
It's animation. It's animation. It's animation.
Right? I totally love that. I think that's so great. So thank you very much for following along with this. And you should now move on to the homework video, which will take you a little bit through Keyframe Killer. Peace.
If you had a microscope and could look at a piece of a leaf, you would see thousands of tiny openings which branch out until the leaf has all of the materials it needs. What happens now?